Welcome back to Spirit Talk Show. I'm the host, Doyle. We are reading AI-generated stories. Sometimes we're reading fiction. Sometimes we're reading nonfiction. Today, you're listening right now to part 2 of our quantum theory and reincarnation talk, research from ChatGPT. It's actually very compelling. Back in the studio with Howie. Hey, Howie.
Hey, Doyle.
So what's your thoughts about the stuff we've been reading so far?
Well, I'm interested I'm interested in exploring the reincarnation aspect of it because, there's this idea of reincarnation as your consciousness or what makes you going into another body, either as a child or after a near-death experience or whatever, is really fascinating because it's a form of immortality. And who doesn't want to be immortal? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could go into another body knowing what we already know, or at least
be cool.
At least experiencing. You've heard the term "old soul."
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is people who have been reincarnated many times and have learned things across the generations.
I've met a few people that just seem like they've been their old souls. I do think of all the beliefs about, especially since reading about quantum theory and microtubules and how reincarnation could actually be explained by quantum theory in the brain is really cool. It's very compelling. But let's read this. This is. Do you want to start?
Sure. The concept of reincarnation is the belief that the soul or consciousness is reborn into a new body after death. It's been the subject of fascination and study across various cultures and disciplines. While definitive scientific proof remains elusive, several researchers have documented compelling stories that suggest the possibility of reincarnation.
Okay. Dr. Ian Stevenson's pioneering research. Dr. Ian Stevenson's psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, dedicated much of his career to investigating children's reports of past life memories. Over a span of 40 years, he collected around 3,000 such cases worldwide. In many instances, child statements about previous lives were verified to be accurate for specific deceased individuals. Notably, some children had birthmarks or birth defects that corresponded with injuries or wounds of the person they claimed to have been. Wow. In his seminal work, 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation, Stevenson detailed cases where children's memories appeared to correspond to lives of deceased individuals they had no apparent connection to. He approached these cases with scientific rigor, meticulous documentation, analyzing each account.
Dr. Jim B. Tucker's continued investigations were building upon Stevenson's foundation, where Dr. Tucker, also a University of Virginia professor, focused on American cases of children reporting past life memories. He observed that approximately 70% of these children claimed to have died violent or unexpected deaths in their previous lives. Tucker developed a scale to measure the strength of these cases, considering factors such as the specificity of the child's statements and the presence of corresponding birthmarks or behaviors.
Birthmarks or physical correlations. And one of the intriguing aspects of these studies is the occurrence of birthmarks or physical anomalies in children that seem to correspond to the injuries or marks on deceased individuals that they purportedly remembered. For instance, some of the 200 cases that were documented were birthmarks or anomalies aligned with fatal wounds, such as bullet or knife entry points from the previous life. Wow.
Cultural and global perspectives. While many cases have been reported in cultures with a strong belief in reincarnation, such as parts of Asia, researchers have also documented instances in Western countries. Stevenson's European cases of the reincarnation type explore such accounts, demonstrating that these phenomena are not confined to any single culture or belief system.
Media and public accounts. Several documented cases have garnered media attention, further bringing the topic into public discourse. For example, the story of Cameron Macaulay, a young boy from Scotland who vividly remembered a past life on the island of Barra, was featured in the documentary. He detailed recollections, many of which were later verified, providing a compelling narrative that intrigued both public and researchers.
While these accounts are compelling and suggest the possibility of reincarnation, it's important to approach them with a critical and open mind. The evidence collected primarily through anecdotal reports and case studies does not constitute conclusive scientific proof. However, the consistency and specificity of many of these cases continue to challenge our understanding of consciousness, and they suggest avenues for further research.
I think people think if there's no scientific proof of it, it's not true. But I think anybody who knows about law, there's lots of things that we know to be true, but you couldn't prove in court, right? Like you couldn't prove in court that you love someone, but you know that you love someone.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right? Yes. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, all I'm saying is just because there's no scientific compelling evidence doesn't make me think like it's that that gets rid of it, right? So why don't we, wouldn't it be cool if I had some actual accounts that we could read?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here they are.
James Leininger, World War II pilot, was born in 1998 in Louisiana. He began exhibiting detailed knowledge of World War II aircraft from a young age. He experienced vivid nightmares about being shot down by a Japanese plane. James provided specific details, such as the name of the aircraft carrier Natoma and the name Jack Larson. Research confirmed the existence of the USS Natoma Bay and a pilot named James Houston Jr., who was killed in action during World War II. James's parents, initially skeptical, became convinced that their son was recalling Houston's life.
Wow. Ray Hammonds, Hollywood agent. Ray Hammonds from Oklahoma began having vivid nightmares at the age of 4. He spoke of a previous life in Hollywood, providing specific details about his work and personal life. Ryan identified himself in a photograph in a 1932 movie, pointing to an extra who was later identified as Marty Martin, a Hollywood agent who died in 1964. Ryan's statements about Martin's life included details about his family and career, were later verified, despite the fact that Martin was relatively obscure.
The case of PM, a Sri Lankan boy. In Sri Lanka, a boy referred to as PM began speaking about a previous life as a male incense maker who died after being hit by a bus. PM provided specific details about his previous home, his family, and the circumstances of his death. Investigations led to a family that matched his descriptions, and the details provided by PM were found to be very accurate. Notably, PM, who had phobia of buses and a birthmark on his chest corresponding to the injury sustained by the deceased individual.
I can't help thinking about the time I was in Amsterdam, and I said, hey, so I had a crazy deja vu feeling, and I said, first time in Amsterdam, by the way, I said, go down there or something, and there's a red door, number 14, and there was a red door named 14. Number 14 down the way.
You felt compelled to say it. Did you have a vision?
I just turned and I said, I felt such a strong. I've had deja vu before, right? Which is, by the way, people know that deja vu is the feeling you did something before, right? And then it was really strong, and I said, "Wow, this street sounds so familiar." And then I just said, "There's a door down there, and number 14, like a red door," and it was an old door, so. I think it's really cool and compelling. Okay, The case of Kendra Carter. Kendra Carter, an American girl, began displaying unusual behaviors and preferences that did not align with her family's background. She exhibited knowledge of specific details about a previous life, including relationships and events. Upon investigation, the details were verified by Kendra, was found to correspond with the life of the deceased individual unknown to her family. This case was documented by Dr. Jim Tucker, who noted the specificity and the accuracy of Kendra's statements.
These cases, among others, have been meticulously documented by research and continue to be subjects of study in the field of reincarnation research. While they don't provide conclusive evidence, they offer compelling narratives that challenge our understanding of consciousness, and they suggest the possibility of life beyond death.
Well, how can it not be compelling? You're talking about this boy who knew about the island, and the boy who knew about he knew about the ship he was on. He knew about
Yeah, unfortunately, we live, in a society where we really need empirical evidence to believe something. But
the boy from Sri Lanka, he probably lived in a very sheltered life. He didn't have internet. So people would suggest that Ryan, the guy who believed he was a Hollywood agent, could have looked stuff up online and could have found stuff like that. But the boy from Sri Lanka probably had very little access to the internet and stuff. Okay, well, let's see if we have some more.
Okay, the case of Sam Taylor. Sam Taylor, who was born in the United States, began speaking about his past life as his own grandfather when he was just 18 months old. He provided specific details about his grandfather's life, including personal habits and events that he had no natural way of knowing. For instance, Sam accurately described how his grandfather's sister had been murdered and recounted details about his grandfather's car and his favorite foods. These statements were later verified by family members who were astonished by the accuracy of Sam's recollections.
That's cool. I mean, how would
an 18-month-old know these things?
Yeah, how would he know? I mean, I guess the parents could have been talking to him about it. Okay, the case of Preeti from India. In a village in India, a young girl named Preeti, that's funny, like pretty, began recalling a past life in which she claimed to have been a woman named Kamlesh, who died in a neighboring village. Preeti provided detailed information about Kailesh's family and home and the circumstances of her death. Upon investigating, it was found the woman named Kailesh had indeed lived and died in a manner described by Preeti. Preeti's knowledge of specific details of Kamlesh's life, which she had no apparent way of learning, intrigued researchers.
The case of the Burmese twins. In Burma, now Myanmar, twin boys began speaking about their past lives as two brothers who had died together in a car accident. The twins exhibited behaviors and preferences that had matched those of the deceased brothers, such as specific tastes in food and play activities. They also had birthmarks that corresponded to the fatal injuries sustained by the brothers in the accident. The families involved had no prior contact, and the twins' detailed knowledge about the brothers' lives and deaths was unexplainable by conventional means.
Wow. The case of Titu Singh. Titu Singh, a young boy from India, began insisting that he was a man named Suresh Verma who had been shot and killed. Titu provided specific details about Suresh's life, family, and business. He led his family to a town he had never visited, directed to Suresh's widow, whom he recognized. Titu's statements about Suresh's life and death were later verified, and he even identified Suresh's murderer. This case was extensively documented by researchers due to the specificity and the accuracy of Titu's claims. Okay, I think you read that part.
Oh, these cases, among others, have been meticulously documented by researchers and continues to be the subjects of study in the field of reincarnation research. While they don't provide conclusive evidence, they offer compelling narratives that challenge our understanding of consciousness and suggest the possibility of life beyond death.
So, what are you thinking?
A lot of these stories, a lot of these experiences are coming from young people, and young people don't have that life experience to lie and to
to make up stories.
Make up stories, and why would they do that? They're just children, and they're saying.
Well, children are most honest. That's when a children tells you you're fat. You're too fat. It's because they're just honest to a fault, right? So, wow, that's so cool. Okay, let's read this. We're going to read about the question of life after death has intrigued humanity for centuries. While definitive scientific evidence remains elusive, various studies and phenomena have explored the understanding and the possibility of consciousness in persisting beyond the physical demise. Okay, so you read number one.
Near-death experiences, or also called NDEs. Near-death experiences are profound psychological events that occur in individuals who have come close to death or have been clinically dead and then revived. Common features include feelings of peace, out-of-body experiences, moving through a tunnel, and encountering bright lights or spiritual beings. Prospective studies, research has shown that a significant number of cardiac arrest survivors report NDEs. For instance, a study conducted by Dr. Pam Vin Lommel in the Netherlands found that 18% of patients who were successfully resuscitated after cardiac arrest reported NDEs. The AWARE Awareness During Resuscitation study, led by Dr. Sam Parnia, investigated out-of-body experiences during cardiac arrest. The study found that 9% of patients who survived cardiac arrest reported experiences compatible with NDEs. Notably, one patient had a verified out-of-body experience, accurately describing events that occurred during their resuscitation.
Yeah,
The percentages that they give, I suspect that they're pretty low, because there are probably instances that haven't been reported and haven't, or maybe instances where the person doesn't really realize that they had an NDE, or they forgot, or whatever. I suspect that those percentages could actually be higher.
Well, I think they probably are. I think anybody who knows about statistics, which are involved with personal reporting from people like sexual assaults and stuff, they are notoriously underreported. So we know if it's like 18%, it's probably like 36%. Right?
Yeah, and then there's probably people who are skeptical in themselves, thinking, "No, that couldn't have happened to me." No, but maybe it did.
Look at that word you're going to have to say in three here,
Okay.
but I'm going to go to number 2 first.
Okay.
Terminal lucidity. Wow. Terminal lucidity refers to an unexpected return of mental clarity and memory shortly before death in patients suffering from severe psychiatric and neural disorders. This phenomenon has been reported in various cases, suggesting that consciousness may persist even after the brain is significantly impaired.
Okay, thanatotranscriptomy. Recent studies have discovered that certain genes become active after death, a phenomenon termed the thanatotranscriptomy. Research indicates that some genes may continue to be expressed in cells for up to 48 hours post-mortem, producing new mRNA. The implications of these findings are still being explored, but they suggest that biological activity continues after clinical death.
Wow. What's that word?
Psilocybin?
Yes, psilocybin. Oh, I know what that is. And end-of-life experiences. Studies have explored the possibility of what is it? Psilocybin, an active ingredient in magic mushrooms.
Of course you know what it is.
What are you talking about? Excuse me, I am a father and a teacher. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. To alleviate the end-of-life anxiety in terminal ill patients, patients have reported a profound experience that altered their perception of death, often describing a sense of unity and transcendence. These experiences have been associated with with reduced fear of death and improving the quality of life in their remaining days.
So let me see what this is saying. Studies have explored the use of psilocybin, which is an active ingredient in magic mushrooms. So is the body producing this ingredient as they are dying, or are they?
I think what it's saying is some people are saying that like magic mushrooms, some people are saying the magic mushrooms just create like hallucinations, like you get really high. But what this is saying, that actually, like going back to the universal consciousness back that we read earlier, they're saying that what it's actually doing is helping you connect to the unity of the universe instead.
My question is though, is the body creating this as it's dying?
No,
it doesn't really say that, does it?
It's saying a profound also using it says students explored the use of psych. So it's they're not producing.
It's not producing it there.
Yeah, okay, so you read number 5.
Cultural and historical accounts. Beliefs in an afterlife are prevalent across various cultures and religions, often based on anecdotal accounts, spiritual experiences, and religious teachings. While these accounts are not empirical evidence, they reflect a widespread human intuition or hope that consciousness continues after death. I think the vast majority of people hope that there is a consciousness after death, that there is a life after death.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things we really want to believe. I mean, but then again, we really wanted to believe in Santa Claus for years too, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, but it's one of the. But I'm not equating that with Santa Claus, because some things that we really want to believe might actually be true, right?
You and I have had many discussions about this, and I think I know your point of view, and mine is, I really hope that there is a life after death. I really hope that I have a consciousness after death, because I would like to see my sister and my dad again.
Well, I was going to say, I think part of your compulsion or want for that is because you've lost people very close to you, and you'd like to think, and I hope so too, and I think there's a possibility you'll actually get to meet them again. So that's cool. So the conclusion is, while none of the phenomenon provide conclusive evidence for life after death, they offer intriguing insight into the human consciousness and its potential persistence beyond physical demise. Ongoing research in fields such as neuroscience, psychology, and thanology continues to explore these questions, contributing to our understanding of life, death, and what may lie beyond. So, wow, it's got... I think I like reading this. It feels encouraging to me, like it's compelling, right? It's like when you read stuff about, have you heard of the book called A Case for Christ?
A Case for Christ? No, I have not.
It's about a atheist who started to do like scientific research to prove that Christ couldn't exist. Like Jesus Christ and the story of Jesus being reincarnated and everything couldn't exist. And in the process, he believed, in doing his research, he was actually converted to Christianity because he believed that it had to have actually like happened. There was, so he actually convinced himself from being an atheist by doing research for this book. So I wish I remember the author's name, because that would have been
well, maybe we can look it up for
a
next
great
week.
thing to say. So let's see what we can read now. Let's see. Okay, let's find something here. Okay, well, since we're on the theme of near-death experiences, why don't we try to finish up tonight with a script about near-death experiences? So whose turn it is to read, yours or mine?
Not sure.
I think it's yours. So you're going to read the exposition, all the extra stuff, right?
So the title is Between Life and Death. It's a drama thriller, and it's a short film. Mm-hmm. Part 1, Fade In, Extreme Remote Mountain Road.
Oh, that's night. Exterior
Remote Mountain Road, and it's night.
Yeah.
A beat-up sedan speeds along a narrow, winding road, which howls. Well, wind howls, rain pounds the windshield. Inside, Jason, 32, scruffy, sharp-eyed, and stubborn, grips the wheel. Beside him is Mia, 29, intuitive, fiercely loyal, clutches the dashboard. So I'm Mia.
Okay.
Jason, slow down.
I got this.
Lightning flashes. A deer leaps on the road. Jason! He yanks the wheel. The tires scream. Exterior, cliffside, continuous. The car skids. The edge gives way. Free fall. The world spins as the car plummets into darkness, smashed to black. Part 2, Fade In. Interior hospital room, and it's night.
Beep, beep,
the rhythmic
beep,
sound of a heart
beep,
monitor.
Beep, beep,
Jason lies
beep,
in a hospital
beep,
bed,
beep,
eyes flickering
beep,
open.
beep.
Mia sits beside him, clutching his hand, eyes puffing from crying. He stirs. Her head snaps up. Oh my God, Jason! Tears spill as she presses the call button frantically.
I heard you.
She freezes. What?
I heard everything.
He takes a breath, struggling.
I wasn't here. I was somewhere else. Floating, watching. I saw the doctors. I saw you.
Mia grips his hand tighter. Jason, you were dead. Jason, you were dead for 3 minutes. There was no heartbeat. He looks at her intensely in his eyes.
You told me you weren't ready to let go, that I had to fight. You kissed my forehead, and you said, I need you to come back.
Mia's breath catches.
The nurse told you it was too late, that I was gone. But you whispered in my ear, I don't accept that.
Mia's hand flies to her mouth. Jason, how do you... Her voice is barely a whisper.
Because I was still there.
Silence. The weight of the moment presses on them. Finally, Mia exhales, overwhelmed. You came back. Jason gives the faintest smile.
Because you called me.
Fade to black.
Wow. So that was actually really quite cool. I liked it. So I like that. Let's see if we can find another story or script kind of like that. So let's try this. We put the other prompt in another generator.
Okay. Echoes from the other side. Part 1, the departure. A dimly lit hospital room, machines beeping softly. A figure, Jason, 30s, lies motionless on the bed. His friend Maria, 30s, grips his hand, her face tight with grief. A doctor stands near, solemn.
Time of death, 417. I'm sorry.
Maria lets out a shaky breath, pressing her forehead against Jason's cold hand. The doctor steps away, giving her a moment. Not moving, she barely whispers, "You idiot! You said you'd never leave me. You swore." Silence. Then she sniffles and lets out a broken laugh. "I never told you this, but I hated that stupid leather jacket you always wore. You thought it made you look cool. It didn't. It smelled like rain and regret." She wipes her eyes, still holding his hand. "And God, you were terrible at singing, but you did it anyway just to drive me crazy. Don't stop believing." But you sang that in the car at full volume, even though you know you don't know the half the words.
That's funny.
She grips his hand tighter. "If you can hear me, Jace, just don't be gone yet, okay? Just wait a little longer, please." She leans down, pressing a kiss to his forehead, then silence. The beeping monitors have already fallen still. The return. The same hospital room hours later. Jason stirs, gasping as if dragged from deep water. Maria, asleep with her head on the bed, jerks awake at the sound. "What? Jason?" She scrambles to sit up, pressing the call button frantically. Jason turns his head slowly to look at her, his face pale, eyes with something unreadable.
"I heard you."
"Oh my God, Jason, they said you were gone."
"I heard everything. So we're going to have to, on that cliffhanger, come back next week and continue to hear the story of Jason and Maria, because we're running out of time. Thank you for coming on, Howie.
It was always my pleasure it's always my pleasure.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate it. So if you guys would like to get involved, go to spirittalkshow.com. You'll learn any information you want about the show on there, and have a good night. Listen to Spirit Talk Show.